Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Welcome to Veterans Era, the Veterans Hour, your source for news, talk, and uncensored commentary here in your Lone Star Community Radio. I am your host, Douglas B., and you can listen to new episodes of Veterans Era the first Tuesday of every month at 1 p.m. We are also going out, on Conroe's FM 106.1 and 104.5, Facebook Live, YouTube, Our City TV Channel 12, and wherever you get your fine podcasts. As always, a little housekeeping before we get started today. You can contact Veterans Era through our website at www.veteransair.us. Leave us a message, or better yet, you can contact us in the studio on our Google phone, 936-344-3083. If you do not know, May is National Trauma Awareness Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. And this is our chance, or my chance, to put out to y'all some information that I found. We are lucky to have with us today via Zoom Dr. Michelle D. Sherman. She's a PhD, LP, ABPP, licensed clinical psychologist, and she's going to talk to us about her new book, Loving Someone with Mental Illness, or a History of Trauma, Skills, Hope, and Strength for Your Journey. This show is meant not for you guys, not for us veterans, but for those that love us. So pay close attention to this. Some little stats for you. Over 80% of American adults experience at least one traumatic event, including combat and military sexual trauma, as we know here. While most people don't develop long-term difficulties after trauma, military personnel are at increased risk for developing difficulties such as depression, anxiety, substance abuse, shame, post-traumatic stress disorder. Really? Interpersonally, they may be withdrawn physically or emotionally, feel numb, and struggle to express love and any kind of affection, and be prone to irritability and angry outbursts. Really? Loved ones, and I get this a lot, traveling around the state, dealing with veterans and their families. I get this a lot. Loved ones often want to be supportive, but don't know how. Sometimes they feel shut out by responses such as, I don't want to talk about it, or you just can't understand. That's true, especially when it comes to combat veterans. It's the truth. Combat veterans don't talk to non-combat veterans about their experiences. Not because they don't love that person, not because they don't want the help. It's just the loved one, our loved one, we have two problems talking about it. The first and foremost is we don't want to hurt our loved ones. And the second is there's no way for them to understand. None. They haven't gone through the same experience. If you've hung out at a military bar, the VFW, American Legion, wherever, and you've listened to the way we combat veterans talk to each other, we say a lot without saying anything. And that's because we've chewed the same ground, if you will, for my Marines out there. And we've had the same experiences. Maybe not the guy that I'm talking to sitting across from me, maybe a Vietnam veteran. I've never been to Vietnam, of course. It doesn't matter. We understand what each other is trying to say without actually having to say it. That can be extremely painful and isolating to our loved ones. They may feel hurt and confused that their military members won't talk and they only talk to their Army buddies or other veterans, and they get walking away with the feeling of, I'm your wife, you can tell me anything. How then can loved ones connect with, empower, and strengthen their relationships with military trauma survivors who is pulling away, whether that's be a partner, an adult child, a parent, a sibling, or other loved ones? How can they do that? Now, you can't throw a stick in the air without hitting some nonprofit or somebody or some organization that wants to help the veteran. But it is a hard look to find an organization, a nonprofit, a person who can help the loved ones. When we're talking about PTSD or military sexual trauma, and as you all know from listening to the show, I deal with this a lot with my veterans. It's not just the veteran. It's the spouse. It's the children. It's their mothers and fathers. Not only do you need to treat the veteran, but you need to treat the whole family and its interpersonal relationships. Now, with us, I said, we have Dr. Michelle D. Sherman, who's a PhD, and she's a licensed clinical psychologist who has dedicated her career to supporting families dealing with mental illness or trauma, PTSD. And she has worked in diverse settings, including the Veterans Affairs healthcare system, private practice, and academia as a professor at the University of Oklahoma and University of Minnesota medical schools. I can't speak today, guys. Give me a break. Dr. Sherman is a fellow of the American Psychological Association, the APA, and is board certified in couple and family psychology. She is the editor-in-chief of Couple and Family Psychology Research and Practice, the journal of APA's Society of Couple and Family Psychology, and was named the Family Psychologist of the Year in 2022. She has published over 75 articles in peer-reviewed journals and has given several hundred workshops nationally and internationally. She serves on the board of the Oklahoma National Alliance of Mental Illness for 14 years and now enjoys volunteering with the Minnesota NAMA affiliate. Dr. Sherman, welcome to the show. I am not, obviously, a psychologist, but I do play one on TV. Now, what enables me to do what I do in supporting the veterans I support is a lot of training. Military Veteran Peer Network, the VFW, other organizations, and so forth. And my child, my loving daughter, is also a clinical psychologist in the same areas that you are. So she helps me a lot and tells me, Daddy, you just ain't thinking right. As I said earlier, one of the most prevalent requests for support that I get, other than from the veterans themselves, is from spouses. They just can't understand that this man or this woman has pledged their life to me. Why can't they tell me what happened? Why can't they tell me what's wrong?
Yeah.
I have a canned answer to that. And my canned answer is, it's not that they won't tell you what's wrong. They can't. They may not know themselves what is wrong. So we have to treat, if we're going to treat trauma, we have to treat not only the person traumatized, but those people that live with them, that love them, that interact with them. Because it's stressful on the spouse. It's stressful on the kids. I have seen this firsthand, how bad this can get. And I want to give a shout out real quick to Sunny Valley, the Equestrian Therapy Center up here in Montgomery County, Texas. They do a phenomenal job for families. They really do. So you wrote this book, Loving Someone with Mental Illness or a History of Trauma, Skills, Hope, and Strength for Your Journey. I've read it. I found it to be a great resource. And people, if you haven't read this book, if you haven't seen this book yet, you can follow the links above, below, on the side, wherever it is Dick puts it, or go to their website, seedsofhope douglasbooks.com and get this for yourself. This is, stop me when I go wrong, doctor, this is written for not the veteran, but for those people that are living with, loving, or caring for the veteran.
Exactly, exactly. Douglas, so first of all, just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. And I'm like, just listening to you speak, you get it. You've lived it, you've heard it, you support others. And so I'm like, rock on. Yeah, I love what you're saying, and we're having so many similar thoughts. So just to clarify a little bit, I did work in the Oklahoma City VA for about 17 years. And my whole focus at that place was supporting families. And the way it started, Douglas, was I was working in an outpatient mental health clinic and just noticing all the families in the waiting rooms with such commonality of needs, of experiences, of feelings. And I'm like, hold on, the veterans go in and out for their brief, maybe 10-minute med check appointments. We have all these people who are here and could really benefit from some support. So I got my very first little grant of $3,000 in the mid 1990s. And I kind of started this, creating this family education curriculum. And actually, the program I created was rolled out as a best practice nationally in VA because it's again the mid 1990s. Okay, it was really speaking to the need to identify, to see, and to support these families of loved ones of veterans who had PTSD or depression or anxiety or psychosis or things. So I've been doing this a long time. And I'm really passionate about supporting families because I fully agree. It can be a lonely, confusing, sad, difficult journey. And I've done couples therapy 30 years. That was kind of also my expertise. I directed the family mental health program at the VA in Oklahoma City. And so I exclusively worked with couples and some families. Sometimes in a group setting, like with several couples would come in, sometimes just a couple themselves. But I really got to see in front of my very eyes how trauma can impact veterans and those that they love. And so, frankly, what I've done is I've left the VA, but I've taken what I've learned for 30 years in working with families affected by trauma and mental illness and put that all in a book. Because most people, let's say, are never going to go to a support group, or they can't find one, or they can't afford it, or whatever else. And so, instead of like all these boring details about, this is depression or these are the symptoms, I mean, you can Google that, right? Rather, I took what we know and what I studied because I'm also a researcher, what we learned, what we heard from families of what they need, and tried to put that in a book format. And so that's really why we did it. There's a companion guide for teenagers whose parent has experienced trauma or has mental illness called I'm Not Alone. You can also see that on that website that you mentioned. But they're also similarly often so confused and blaming themselves. So the ripple effects, I like to say, on the families can be really considerable. And so I'm so happy that we're here to be able to talk about this today.
And it's a very important topic and subject. Now, I deal with the veterans that I get that are referred to me. I don't go out looking for them. They either listen to this broadcast and call me up, or they're referred to me by somebody else. I get the veterans that, for lack of a better analogy, are square pegs trying to bang into the VA's round hole. It just doesn't work for them, and they failed. And the more that they fail, the more isolated that veteran feels. And the more isolated that veteran feels, adds more trauma and more stress to the family unit.
Absolutely.
And kids also. I have seen this over and over and over again. Now, this country has made great strides in removing the stigma of PTSD. We really have. As a nation, we've made great strides removing that stigma. Now, PTSD, for everybody who's ever worn the uniform, they realize this is shell shock. This is combat fatigue. It's all the same thing. We just changed acronyms.
Right.
So this isn't new, but the way that we're starting to treat this and understand this is because what works, and I recently was having a conversation with one of my veterans, and I explained it to him this way. Look, your demons are not my demons. My demons are not your demons. And we all have demons, but they all don't respond to the same thing. And while we may be wrapped up in our own trauma, whether that be PTSD from combat, whether that be depression, anxiety, survivor guilt,
Yeah, absolutely.
we often don't understand how our actions, our attitudes, the language that we choose to use when communicating with our loved ones, how much
Yeah.
that hurts them also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Douglas. And I think um, a huge part of why I like to help with the family unit is to help the family member understand, it's not about you. This is about them struggling with their demons, to use your word, or their irritability, or their um, anxiety. They can't go to the 4th of July picnic because fireworks are horrible, or because all those people, or what do I say that I'm not working, or whatever else. I mean, there are so many things that aren't about you, because so often family members take it personally and think, do you not love me? Do you not find me attractive? Or do you not want to be intimate with me, or whatever else, that it affects so many parts of the family relationships. So helping the families understand, okay, it's not about me. They're doing their best. And then I teach in our book and in therapy what are ways in which you can be supportive when they are struggling. I will want to add one thing, however, please, and this is an opinion statement. Okay, Douglas, this is my opinion. I don't think that even the very worst case of PTSD makes it okay to be abusive in any way,
You're
shape, or form.
100% correct.
Okay, that's just my opinion. Okay, because we know, and you could say, well, doc, look at the DSM, the diagnosis, and it says angry outbursts and irritability. And it does. Absolutely. I've treated thousands of veterans, and there's a lot of irritability and anger outbursts. My opinion is that does not excuse or condone or make it okay to be abusive in any way, shape, or form to your children, to your pets, or to your partner.
And let's be clear, abuse is not just physical.
Oh,
Mental
absolutely.
abuse also.
Financial, sexual, I mean, all sorts of different ways. Absolutely.
You mentioned fireworks. I want to relate two stories
Yeah.
right quick.
Yeah.
My mother's second husband was a Korean War veteran, combat veteran.
Uh-huh.
70 years old. Fireworks go off. He grabs my mom and throws her to the ground and lays down on top of her. He's
Wow.
70 years old.
Wow.
One of
Wow.
my veterans returned from combat, been out for a year. The first 4th of July, he was in his bathtub cradling his M4.
Yeah. It's real. It's
It
real.
it is real. Lucky for me, I mean, I consider myself a lucky one. I have no trauma, and that's because I just don't care. I'm a very uncaring person. But for I hate to use this word because it sounds so cliche. The family dynamic needs to be incorporated in the treatment of the veteran.
Absolutely. Because,
And
if you take the person out of the system and help them, we use whatever evidence-based therapy is, of prolonged exposure, cognitive processing therapy. A newer therapy I'm really excited about called written exposure therapy. Really great data showing these things work. That if we can help the veteran decrease their symptoms, increase quality of life, feel less alone and connected, but then we put them back in the same family system and nothing has changed, it's going to be hard to maintain those gains. And so we absolutely need to educate and support and involve families and help them know how to both support their veteran, but simultaneously, again, opinion statement here, I think it's important for them to set limits, to take good care of themselves. So yeah, even though maybe you, my veteran, my husband, are feeling down today or angry or whatever else, I'm still going to go out with my friends and play pickleball because that's important for my mental health today. So that ability to set limits is also very important, and to engage in self-care for families.
you have to engage, the families have to engage in that self-care. They have to. Because whether the person with the trauma realizes it or not, their loved ones, their children, their pets, their friends, their family, They are their support group. And you talk about this in your book. And forgive me, I don't have the hard copy with me, so I keep
Sure,
going back to my tablet here.
that's fine.
You even talk about this in chapter 3 of your book, your support network.
Yes.
Now, this support network that you're talking about here isn't necessarily for the veteran, but is for the loved one.
Right.
Just like the spouse will call me up and say, "Hey, Billy Bob is having a bad day this week. Bad
Yeah.
day today. It's been going on all week long. I don't know what's going on. He's shut
Yeah.
off of me. He does nothing but play video games all day.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
help."
Yeah.
The spouse that's reached out to me for help to help her veteran, that spouse needs help too.
Absolutely.
And they may not even know that they need help.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
your book talks about this.
Absolutely. That's why the title of the book is, Skills, Hope, and Strength for Your Journey. It's not about the veteran's journey, but it's about the family members' hope for your journey. Because that's exactly what it is. And it can be psychotherapy, it can be groups, it can be lots of things, though. For some people, it's spiritual. For some people, it's nature. People find yoga meaningful, massage. People find all sorts of different things that can be meaningful. I'm curious in Texas through this VSOs, VFW, PVA, etc. How much do you find the partners experience community through the VSOs?
A lot. But
I thought so.
it depends on the VSO organization.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Veterans of Foreign Wars, whether it be the American Legion, whether it be the DAV, maybe the Military Veteran Peer Network,
Yeah.
if it's a good chapter and they're involved in their community
Yeah.
and they are forward thinking enough to think what the next generation of veterans need,
Yeah.
then it is a wonderful resource. Because the VFW, and I've said this thousands of times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again, the VFW, the American Legion, the VAD, which I'm a life member of all of them,
Uh-huh.
it's not the bar. The bar is not part of that organization. The
Yeah.
organization is your fellow veterans around you. When you went to war, you never went alone. You
Right.
went with your squad. You went with your battle buddy.
Yeah.
And when you got out, you lost your battle buddy.
Right.
These veteran organizations, they help you reconnect with a new battle buddy if they're
Yes.
good. But we have some very bad ones out there.
Oh, really?
And I am the national VFW aide de camp to the national commander.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and I travel extensively through the state of Texas. So I know
Okay.
which good ones are, and I know which
I
ones the
bet you
bad ones are. But not only can the veteran benefit from these organizations, but the spouse and the children can also. Now, my local post here for the VFW 4709, is an outstanding All-American post.
Okay.
We have programs for veterans. We have programs for families. We have programs for kids. And
Good.
it's open to the community. There's very few things that we do at the post that are just for post members. They're open
Okay.
for the community. And there's a reason why we do that. Mental
Okay.
health.
Yeah.
I recently lost a veteran earlier in the year, military sexual trauma that I had been working with. Her demons just won that night. I just got back last week from Arlington National Cemetery, visiting the grave sites of other fallen veterans that I've placed there. And it is a heart-wrenching thing to realize that this death did not have to happen. This tore up family did not have to happen if we just got the information that they need in their hands when they needed it.
Yeah.
Now, your book is specifically written for, not for the veteran, but for the spouse, the children, the mom, the dad, and whatnot.
Yes.
If our family unit, if our family dynamic is not strong mentally, have good mental health,
Right.
they're not an asset to the veteran, are they?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so there are so many reasons for the loved ones to take good care of themselves, not only for their own well-being, which is very important, but for their ability to be supportive of their veteran. Absolutely. And their children and their church, their community, whatever else, that helping them to empower them is so, so important. And that's why, we teach skills. That's what the book is about, of communication skills, limit setting skills, navigating the healthcare system, which is so hard. You know, identifying your support network, taking good care of yourself, of evidence-based coping tools, all these sorts of things. That's like, you're not alone. There are people who can walk through this journey with you. And if you're willing to go to a post activity or something, or equine therapy activity, fantastic. But you and I know, Douglas, not everyone's going to do that.
Nope.
So part of why we wrote these books is like, maybe someone could, find a book at the library or find it on Amazon or something else. Like, okay, I feel less alone. Because frankly, in writing these books, we took many, many, many people to help us, not only other professionals, teachers, clergy, psychologists, psychiatrists, but also the lived experience of people who have loved people with mental illness or trauma. So scattered throughout the book are stories and quotes, and then activities, reflection questions, and things to help people really feel that they are not alone. And so that's a large part of why we wrote this, is to try to make it more interactive and engaging, so people who maybe feel too ashamed, who live too far away, who don't know about the resources, can learn about it. And so that's really a large part of why we did it. I'll just give you a little story. We're working actually with some people internationally, actually surrounding the youth piece, working with some inpatient psychiatric units. And we're talking to a nurse actually in Iceland who is helping this. And she said she's working with this daughter of a person with serious trauma, mental illness. And this little girl said, this book, the teenage book, it's for me. There's nothing else out there for me. Because there are books like if your parent has cancer or your parent has um, MS, or all sorts of things, or dementia or whatever else, but there are no books out there at all for young people whose parent has a trauma or mental illness. And so we're hoping to help fill that gap for the teenagers and for the adults.
Now, good listeners, I hope you're listening, because Dr. Sherman is saying the same things that I've been saying to you for 6, 7 years now since I've had this show. And she's a doctor, and she's telling you these things. So this should lead some credence to what I've been preaching now for the past couple of years. You had mentioned in your book, or when you're just talking about your book, about the activities and the checklists. And I went through them, and they are extremely important for the person using the book to take seriously and fill them out, to think about how to answer these questions.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say it's so important
Yeah.
is it makes you have to think about the question and your emotions when
Right.
you're answering that. A lot of people, myself included, will answer a question without thinking about what our answer is.
Uh-huh.
Your book forces the reader to think about their answer and what that answer really means. It's sort of introspective, but not quite really. It's making you look at yourself outside of yourself, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And there's so much research showing that writing is powerful, be it writing about trauma, be it writing about emotions, be it writing about grief, whatever else. And so, absolutely, the checklist, what are some of the things that are hardest for me with my loved one? What happens if I don't set limits for myself? What are some of the things that I may really want to commit to in setting goals for myself, my own well being? Taking that pen to paper or online typing and things, it makes a huge difference because it's a commitment. It's putting it on paper. It can be very healing and very helpful for people to actually take that time and energy to write. Because yeah, I don't know about you, but often when I read books, I skip those things or I just read it. But you're right. It's like it's so important to actually engage with the material. Also, just to note, the book is not intended to be read from like page one till the end. There's a guide at the beginning. So it's like if I want to learn more about how to communicate better or how to support my loved one when they're distant and when they're emotionally withdrawn. How can I deal with what do I tell other people? The whole stigma, which is better, but I think it's still somewhat there for some illnesses, some cultures, whatever else. Certainly around some mental illnesses more than others. Um, but how can I navigate the health issues? All these things. So there's a guide at the beginning. Say, I want this. Okay, go to this chapter. I want this. I go to this chapter. So it's intended to be hopefully useful in that way. And I just want to go back, Douglas, to the VSOs. I don't know if you have conferences or activities or things like that. That might be an awesome way, even if they want guest speakers or things like that, to talk to these families, to support them. I've done that in the past, and if that would ever be something to be useful to you and the families that VSOs support, I'd love to talk to you about that.
I will pass that on to the national commander. We have our national conference in August, I think it is this year,
Yeah.
or even the state commander. I'm talk to him more than the national commander. I wanted to make a point to our loved ones out there, and especially those people that those veterans and families that I'm currently involved with. You've heard me say to your veteran, not every therapist is the same. Not every therapy is the same. You may find one that works, you may not. But when you find one that works, we're going to go with it. If we find one that doesn't work for you, we're going to move on and find another one. This is true, I believe, for our spouses. You have to find, and you mentioned this in the book, you have to find your right support group. And I tell my people, everyone's out there is willing to support you, but it's only support if it's the support that you need when you need it.
Absolutely. And it can be both the therapy and the person. Because I say this to my new clients all the time, so much of the outcome of therapy is the relationship. So even if they have all these letters after their name or 4 decades of experience, if you don't feel that they really are trying to be present with you, I've heard stories lately, Douglas. Oh, it just scares me that clients are saying, my therapist is playing on their phone during our session. Like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. This is
I've heard that
horrible.
too.
So you have to find someone with the right training, the right skills, the heart, and someone who really you feel cares about you and knows how to help you. So
It's
I
like
couldn't agree with you more, Douglas.
you're not going to go see a proctologist for brain
Right.
surgery. So
Exactly.
why would you do that with your therapist? I actually have one of my veterans that this veteran's a train wreck, physically and mentally. The VA decided that they're going to send them to community care for a counselor closer to them. Thank you, Bravo VA. I appreciate that. They sent this individual to a therapist that was 25 years old, had never served, and he is attempting to treat this veteran that's been blown up twice, has a couple of military sexual traumas. He can't talk the talk or walk the walk, as we say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to find the right support network for you. I can't tell
Absolutely.
you, and you can't tell them what the correct support network is for them. But you can, through this book, guide them to evaluate their
Right.
support network.
Exactly. That is so important. And yes, there are criteria. Yes, there are questions to ask. We have a whole chart on questions to ask. And at the end of the day, to me, one of the most important variables is your gut feeling. Do I feel that this person is here and trying to help me and acting in a professional, appropriate with boundaries. We don't want to go out and have a beer after the session or things, that they are knowing how to help me. And so I couldn't agree with you more. And sadly, sometimes people don't know any different. It's like, I never been to a therapist before. How do I know what it's supposed to be like? Well, check it out with someone if you're not sure if these things, right? Like if you can, call your therapist 24/7. That kind of concerns me. It's normally not what therapists do. So, checking things out, but absolutely find someone you can do this good work with. And sometimes it may not be the first person, just like in any profession. There are really good people. There are people who don't have the skills maybe that are appropriate. I'm also curious in your area, certainly in Oklahoma, there were a lot of these. Are people accessing much support through vet centers?
Yes and no, it depends.
Yeah.
If the vet center gets involved with the veteran early on, when they're
Okay.
first getting out, then they
Okay.
become a go-to resource for the veteran and the families.
That's why I said that. Yeah, exactly.
But if not, the military as a whole, generally speaking, the military as a whole does a poor job in transition.
Yeah.
Transition is the word that we use for getting out of the military, becoming a civilian again.
Yeah.
They do a poor job of that.
Yeah.
We do have organizations that have taken the steps necessary to be there and become part of the transition center at the different military installations, and that tends to work better. If you can get the veteran
Yeah.
if you can get the veteran before they even become a veteran, they're
Right.
getting out.
Right.
You can get them and figure out what it is that they need,
Yeah.
then you can get them to the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Vet centers are wonderful. I have very good colleagues at the vet centers. Down here in the Houston area, we have what's called Combined Arms, and this is a very unique organization. What Combined Arms did is they took a whole bunch of veteran service organizations, a whole bunch of 501(c)s, and put them under one roof. So you
I'm
go
not familiar with this.
to Combined Arms and you fill out this questionnaire that's like 10 pages long and whatnot.
Wow.
And they look at that and they go, oh, well, this veteran needs help, needs some financial support. We're going to send him to this organization. The veteran needs housing. We're going to send him to this organization. They're like a
Yeah.
clearinghouse, Combined Arms, and they do
Wow, very
wonderful,
cool.
wonderful work. General
Do they
Hummer,
involve families?
they involve families too. The guy in charge of that here in Montgomery County is General Hummer, retired 2-star Marine, a general, and does fabulous work. He put together a food bank for veterans.
Wow.
Veterans,
very
as you
cool.
know, we won't ask for help. We will not. We have to be really, really screwed up to ask for help.
Yeah.
We start digging a hole and we don't know when to stop digging that hole.
Yeah.
Combined Arms, a wonderful organization. You should check them out. I'll send you some
I
info.
will. Yeah, I've never heard of it.
But
I'm gonna learn.
General Hummer put together a veterans food bank, so it travels around to the different areas, and it's only for veterans. Because a veteran's not going to go to a church or the food bank, Houston Food Bank or whatnot, and say, I'm hungry. They're just not going to do it.
Right. Oh, I love that. It sounds like a wonderful wraparound program, and I'm glad they involve families because I just love talking to you, Douglas, because you really get it. It's clear. You've been doing this obviously a long time, and I hear your passion for families. And I certainly want to absolutely second this is all different kinds of trauma. I did a lot with folks who have military sexual trauma, and when I was at the VA, and so firmly believe in the incredible importance of family engagement surrounding that because of course the impacts many parts of relationship including the sexual relationship can be significant after military sexual trauma, and so there are so many ways in which the ripple effects of trauma on families can be great. So it's great to hear your passion, your commitment, and your wanting to serve the families as well.
I got to tell you, when I started advocating for veterans, I was surprised, shocked, and appalled by how much military sexual trauma is actually out there
Yeah.
that has been reported, but it's been swept underneath the rug.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never saw that in my military career. but I had a very blessed military career. I really did. It's absolutely fantastic. And those things that I hear would have never, ever, ever gone on in any of the units that I was assigned to.
Okay.
But it happens.
Oh, yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yes,
And
it does.
it's covered up and it's silent. There's such a stigma attached to military sexual trauma. The veteran that I lost earlier in the year, she was gang raped. The command had swept it underneath the rug. She had used her coping skills and, put that trauma behind her, stuck it in a box, taped it up, threw it in a dark closet, and padlocked the closet door in her mind. And she went on to be a trauma nurse, RN.
Wow.
And one day she's on shift, and they wheel in from the ambulance one of the guys that gang raped her.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
And she lost it right there. She had a mental breakdown right there in the emergency room. A lot of
Yeah.
bad things happened. Her husband divorced her because he didn't know this had happened. Just a spiral down the drain.
Wow.
Trauma, what I'm trying to get at this is, trauma is so varied. But we often don't think, we hear so much about veteran trauma, PTSD, military sexual trauma, of the veteran, but we don't think about their spouses, their loved one, their children.
Right.
My child, she called me a couple months ago. She said, Daddy. I said, what, sweetie? She says, I was counseling one of my clients. I opened my mouth to say something and you came out. And the only thing I could think of was, oh my God, is this person okay now?
What a compliment.
We influence our
Yeah,
children more than we
absolutely.
know. They see our behavior and they
Yeah.
think that this is the way I should be when I grow
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where are we at?
41.
I'm 40 in?
Yes.
Good, I got a couple more minutes. I wanted to talk to you about the appendices in your book,
Uh-huh.
because I found a lot of good information in these appendixes. And
Great.
the way your starting of how to use that book is spot on.
Good.
I consider myself well read, and I've never seen a self-help, quote unquote, book like this starting out the way you started out yours.
Good.
Why did you do it like this?
Um, because I was afraid that people might be overwhelmed and say, "Oh, I can't read that book. That's long or whatever else. It's too much." And maybe some of it doesn't apply. For example, maybe if my loved one does not have an addiction, that I don't really want to read that chapter. Maybe you do, but I really wanted people to get the most out of it as they can, and so really focus on my acute need. Because let's face it, many times family members are going to be reaching out for a book, a therapist, or whatever else at a time of crisis. And so I need help now. I need skills today. And what can I do when they won't get help, when they're in denial, when they don't understand they have an illness, when my children are asking what's going on? I want to give the skills today. And so that's why we tried to write it, to use the book most effectively to help them.
When my children ask, what's wrong with daddy?
Yes.
That's a big one for the spouse or the wife, the husband, and whatnot.
Yeah.
What do you tell your child?
Yeah,
How
that's a
can
whole nother topic. That's what we have a whole chapter on parenting, of how to explain these sorts of things to your children. In our teen book, we have a whole thing about how to talk to your friends. What do you say to your friends who either can't come over to your house, or what do you tell your friends why your parent doesn't come to your dance recital or to your soccer games? Or if they do come and they're really out of control or drinking excessively or things, this is hard for us as adults to know how to talk about, much less kids. And so the whole angle of parenting, because, let's face it, for many people, and it sounds like even perhaps for you, being a parent is really an important role. It's an important part of our identity. And so for some people, it can be a motivation to get treatment, to get help, to get sober. It's because I want to be able to be a good kind of, the kind of parent that I want to be and good, be a good role model for them. And so knowing how to talk about these things is huge and it's complicated for the veteran, the trauma survivor, as well as for the other family members.
Now, you're a mother yourself, and
Actually, I have nephews and a puppy, but I do not have biological children.
I thought your daughter helped you write this book.
That is my mother.
Oh, your mom.
My mom and I wrote it together.
Parenting and parenting with somebody with a mental illness or a trauma
Uh-huh.
is especially difficult. First and foremost, there is no daddy book and there is no mommy book. Nobody
Right,
wrote a book told us of how to be a parent. Feed them,
right.
change them, burp them, you're good to go, right? No, no, there's much more than that. But when you're the parent with your spouse and you have children,
Yeah.
you may have one parenting style. Your
Hmm.
spouse has another parenting style.
Absolutely.
In a what I call functional adult relationship, you're able to meet in the middle. Somebody has a trauma,
Right.
they're not. They're not able to meet you in the middle 9 times out of 10. And the more you become stressed over your spouse and their trauma, the more trauma you're passing on to your children. Or the flip side of that, the more that you're giving to your child and not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so finding that can be a great thing for couples therapy to help the two of you find ways of co-parenting in a way that can be effective. Because let's face it, parenting, as you said, is hard. And at times after trauma, that desire to control, I mean, think Great Santini, right? That scene in
Hmm.
Great Santini where he had them all lined up like this, the kids of trying to treat them like they did in the military, which of course
He
doesn't
was
really
actually
work.
my role model.
Yeah. So all these things, it's like you're going to butt heads with your co-parent or things, and how are you going to do it? What I hear from families quite often is not only the butting heads, but when their veteran, their loved one, be it depression, trauma, whatever else, is kind of not engaged and is pretty checked out, co-parenting. And so then oftentimes the family members, the partners will say, I feel like I'm kind of parenting both my veteran and my children.
Oh, I hear that a lot.
I
I
bet
hear
you
that a
do.
lot.
I bet you do. No disrespect, of course, but it's like I feel like I'm parenting alone. Um, and then how do I talk to my children about what's going on with my husband or whatever else? It's like it's hard, which is actually why we encourage parents to read the I'm Not Alone book, the book for teens, as well, because then you can help think about, oh wow, I never thought that maybe my teenager is feeling embarrassed or angry or confused or afraid, particularly with the mental illnesses. Am I going to be like that someday? That sense of not only did I cause it, but am I going to be like that someday? It's not rational, right? I mean, these are all feelings, and feelings aren't necessarily rational. So helping parents know how to think through and talk to their children. It can be vehicles for communication, to look at that I'm Not Alone book. And so it's hard, and that would be a whole like another podcast of how
I
to talk to kids, but
I
it's a
have
really
not read
important.
that yet, but I will. I have not read that yet, but I will. And I'm
Yeah.
running out of time here, doctor. So before I let you go, I want to share with my viewers here. Look for the links above, below, on the side, wherever it is Dick puts it. And the two links that you're going to want to check out is seedsofhopebooks.com, and you can also get Loving Someone with Mental Illness from Amazon. That's where I
Yeah,
got my digital
Amazon,
copy.
Barnes and Noble, anywhere. Ingram, it's available anywhere. Um, I would also just like to note on the Seeds of Hope book website, if you go to the media page, there are lots of articles I've written and actually more podcasts and things. So if you want to hear me talk about more specific things like parenting or whatever else, there are absolutely things on there. As well, if you go to the resource page, there are tons of great, almost all of those are free resources available there. And so I really encourage people to check those out if you'd like to if you like some of the ideas that we're talking about today, there are more free resources available on our seedsofhopebooks.com website.
Doctor, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your time. I know how busy that you are. And thank you for writing these books. Thank you for getting them out there. We need more of this to be able to help those people that need it.
Yeah, Douglas, thank you. And it's really just a joy to hear people who are like preaching so many things that I'm preaching. And so some of the same ideas. And so bravo to you, Douglas. Keep up the good work and continuing to be a resource for so many. So thank you for all that you're doing.
I'm going to make sure that that I get you the link to this once we get it aired out over to you so that you can use it. And I'm also going to send it to the national and state commanders of the VSOs and go, hey, guys, you need to put this out.
That would be awesome. I would love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just have such respect. I worked with a lot of VSOs. They actually had offices in the VA where I worked. And oh my goodness, it is such important work, both for the veteran and the families, which is precisely why I kind of asked that question of like, hey, it's such an opportunity, a safe place, a community. Like you said, communities often disbanded after military. VSOs, functioning good ones, can be a sense of community that is really powerful.
It is. We don't fight alone. Don't
Right.
care. I don't care
Exactly.
what service
Yeah.
that you're with. We don't fight alone. There's no sense to going through this alone. Again,
Exactly.
thank you for being with us here, Doctor. It was, and I hope to have you back on the show once I read your teen book, and maybe we
Hey,
can
that
do
would be
another one.
fun. Douglas, thank you so very much. Best wishes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, listen up, people. I'm about to coming up to the end here, but there's a couple of things I wanted to get out to you. Some happenings in the month of May, or June rather. On June 7th, Already Gone, a tribute to the Eagles, is over here at the Conroe Theater. You should go see it. Josh Fuller is coming to town. He's going to be at the Table at Mandalay on June 14th. Check that out. If you are in trouble, if you have a trauma, if you're the loved one dealing with somebody with a trauma, and you need help, there is help available for you. If you can't find it, as always, call me, 936-344-3083. I will talk to you, and I will find you the resources that you need. You are not alone. Your loved one went to war. He wasn't alone, and we continue that today. I guess it's about to end for me. You'll want to tune in on June 3rd at 1 p.m. for our next show. I haven't decided what the topic will be, but y'all know me. It's bound to be interesting and entertaining. And I want to leave you this song from our good friend Sailor Jerry. You can go download it on veteransair.us or on iTunes. And while we're listening, let us remember our brothers and sisters in uniform that are today standing in harm's way. They're standing for our freedoms and our liberties. If you are wearing the uniform, I want to say to you, thank you. I want to say to you, I'm proud of you. And until next month, stay safe and stay vigilant.
You packed your bags and shut the door. You crossed the sea to fight a war. You didn't know just what would happen to ya. Stepped in the dirt, boots on the ground, and gunfire was the only sound. And to yourself you whispered hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Every day and every night, you walk the walk, you fight the fight. You never saw the end in sight. you hear a shot, you know you're in a deadly spot. You never thought the day would come, now did ya? Your brother falls down to the ground, the enemy is all around, and from your lips you scream a hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You fought the fight till it was done. You have the strength to carry on. You thought it'd be much better back home, did ya? You try each day, keep pushing through, but the battle lives inside of you. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.